We're going to reflect on a 25-year career of Dr. Paul Jahr today on GC Conversations. Hello and welcome to GC Conversations, a show where each week we bring in faculty and staff, alumni and friends, and we talk all things Georgia College in this community. Thanks for joining us today on NBC TV4, our charter cable affiliate, right here on our Georgia College campus. As well, we're on WRGC 88.3 FM, our NPR radio station here on campus. I'm your host, Wendell Staten. Today we're joined, we got a real special treat, Dr. Paul Jahr, Associate Vice President for Student Affairs. Dr. Jahr, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Wendell.
It's funny, on the way in, you were just saying, it took me 25 years to get here. And so for folks who don't know, I am actually interviewing you today because we run this at different times on your next to last official day of work at Georgia College.
That is correct.
Yes. So thank you for sharing your time with us, and thank you for sharing the last approximately 25 years with us.
My pleasure, sir.
Yeah. So let's talk about that first of all. Sure. I want to go back a little bit about Paul Jahr and maybe where you grew up and eventually how you matriculated to Georgia College and all. Where are you from?
Okay, originally I was born and raised in the Lower East Side of New York City,
okay.
Where I stayed until I was 17 and went to college. Had the opportunity to go to college at University of Miami in Florida, actually on an athletic scholarship.
Okay.
Before the body went south, I played soccer. And I was at Miami. I did my undergraduate degree in sociology and English, and then I got a master's in higher ed admin.
Okay.
While I was there, I got turned on to on-campus living and university housing in particular. Was an RA, grad assistant, the typical kind of pattern.
Right.
Met my wife there, got married while we were there, and then my travels took me to Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, where I was a hall director and did some teaching. Okay. Then I went to University of Southern California in Los Angeles in a housing position and also did some teaching. From there, my son was born there, and that'll make sense in a minute. Then transitioned to University of Southern Illinois at Carbondale, SIUC, as an assistant director of housing. And then from there, went to what was then Kearney State College, which is now University of Nebraska at Kearney, as director of housing, and came here, as we alluded to, almost 25 years ago, as the then director of residence life was the title.
Right.
And if I can leap into your general, how have things been and changed? It is, I would say initially, it's been a great ride. I've enjoyed virtually every moment of my work here at Georgia College. Came here with the intention of being here 3 to 5 years.
I hear that all the time, and then 25 years later, folks are still here. I'm telling you, I hear that all the
time. Came here for the opportunity to run the then Residence Life program. And frankly, for personal reasons, I wanted to work on my terminal degree, my doctorate, and UGA had several programs. So 92,000 miles later in 6 years, that's the traveling back and forth, I secured my doctorate. And
what was that program in?
I did my doctorate in adult education.
Okay.
Had a great experience. Can't say enough about that. And Georgia College, at that point in time, and those who know me know I use this phrase, we were the Kmart of higher education in Middle Georgia. We were relatively inexpensive, we were convenient, and we had a good product. Wasn't a great product, but a good product. And this place has changed so tremendously in the now almost 25 years I've been here. And frankly, that's what's kept me here. My position, I've changed positions, although housing, my functional area, has been my primary responsibility up until about 6 years ago when I moved to the Vice President's office. But no 2 days have ever been the same here at Georgia College. They've been great. Reflecting back to those Kmart of higher ed days, when I came here, in terms of the physical environment, we had the oldest mean age residence hall system in the state. Not the oldest building. UGA has a residence hall that goes back to the late 1700s. But in terms of the average age of our buildings at that point in time, which they were over 50 years of age, the newest building we had was Adams Hall, which was called New Dorm, and that was built in the early 60s. Everything else was built in the 30s, 20s, 30s. Terrell Hall, 09, Bell Hall, 26. And frankly, they were in deplorable condition. So, as I say, in the student body, about 40% of our incoming students were in developmental studies at the time. It was a very different place. We were a smaller campus. We have still, and this is one of the things that's kept me here as long as I've been here, is still been able to maintain, in my opinion, a very collegial campus and a small campus where if you make the effort, you can get to know a whole bunch of people. And it's a very pleasant place. I have always enjoyed the individuals I've worked with. As my roles have changed over the years, I've gotten more involved in working with Student Government Association, our SGA. And I serve as their financial advisor, but they have been a wonderful group of men and women. And over the last 5 to 6 years, they've really assumed a place of prominence in the university system entirely as an outstanding group of men and women, and it's been great working with them. It's been great working with colleagues like yourself way back when you were an assistant coach living in one of our residence halls, to now as our director of intercollegiate athletics.
Who still lived in a residence hall when he came back.
You are correct.
For about 3 months.
That's right, but it was a different style of living. Yes.
So, well, great stories and great perspective. And I want to touch on 2 things there, just from a personal note. Agreed. A lot of folks I talked to, hey, I came down here with the intent of staying, 3 or 4 years, retired here, love it, that type of thing. And then I think you make a great point about the collegialness of this institution, this campus. And, that's just something that you just have or you don't, I guess. And we really do have it here. And I think that's why folks who plan to come here for a short period end up staying here. Maybe touch on that and some of the collegialness that you talk about.
Well, yeah, and I have a habit, and I think I'm kind of known for this informally. When I'm aware of a new individual coming to Georgia College, I shoot them an email, and I invite them for coffee or a pop, my treat, to just visit. No hidden agenda, just an opportunity to welcome folks. And I've probably done that 50 or 60 times. And I can remember on several occasions, and Dr. Ann Gormley was one of them, our former Vice President for Academic Affairs. When I saw her and she was leaving, she made a point of saying, Paul, I want you to know I still remember that when I was first here and you invited me just for a cup of coffee. Dr. Elaine Whitaker, our chair of our English and Rhetoric department, is another individual. When she got here, I took her on a tour of what were then our new residence halls. And virtually every time we sit down and visit, she always says, Paul, I really appreciated the fact that you made the time and took me around. And personally, I make an effort to try and reach out and participate in things. For example, I go to University Senate meetings. I am not a representative on University Senate, but I go in the gallery as much to hear and listen on what people are talking about, and also an opportunity to touch base with folks who you don't normally see on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we're up against a break. I want to come back and talk about that transition of the residential life on our campus with the new buildings, that type of thing.
Certainly.
So very, very interesting. We're with Dr. Paul Jahr, talking a lot of things of Georgia College over the last 25 years. We'll be right back on GC Conversations.
You must be your fairy godmother?
It doesn't take a fairy godmother to tell you that the right fit means everything. Especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
Oh, that does make a difference.
Remember, their happily ever afters are in your hands. To find out more, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Hello and welcome back to GC Conversations. I'm your host, Wendell Staten. Real treat today. We're joined by Dr. Paul Jahr, who is closing out a 25-year career here at Georgia College. And Dr. Jahr, we were talking in the last segment about when you were here as Director of Residence Life and a lot of that time in the residence halls. The halls had a median age, the highest median age. Some number of years ago, between the first time I was here and the last, we had a transformation.
That is accurate.
Kind of talk about that, because when you said Adams was the new hall, well, it's not the new hall anymore, but so there's some other new halls. Maybe when did all this happen and how did this come about?
Okay, and this is Jahr's perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Back, I think it was 95, when the then Chancellor, Stephen Porch, brought in a team of consultants and visited all of the then 34 university system campuses to look at each campus and look at each campus's mission, because at that point in time, everybody was politicking to become something else.
Right.
Two-year schools wanted to be colleges, colleges wanted to become universities, universities wanted to become regional universities.
Right.
And he came in, brought in a series of consultants, and when they submitted their final report, the chancellor determined that there was one institution throughout the system that was going to undergo a mission change, and that's this one.
Okay.
And he was from England, and my impression is that he felt that, and he was getting pressure from the citizenry of Georgia, that a lot of our best and brightest wanted a smaller liberal arts experience, and they were choosing to go out of state and pay a premium price. And they really felt, now there were excellent institutions in the state, but not a liberal arts focus.
Right.
So I believe it was 95 when the chancellor and the regents established Georgia College as the public liberal arts university.
Right.
At that point, I will be totally forthright, because I was here.
Yeah.
I was among those who thought, well, this is probably a name change and name only, and this will be a public relations opportunity to try and continue the evolution of the institution. Well, I can honestly and truthfully say, and I hope I'm always honest and truthful, that I couldn't have been more inaccurate. A woman by the name of Dr. Rosemary DiPaolo was hired as our new president to take us into the liberal arts mission.
Right.
And at that time, Dr. DiPaolo, again, Jahrism, viewed the institution as a triangle, the foundation of the pyramid. One leg of the triangle were the faculty, and her goal was to decrease the faculty to student ratio, which when we started was probably 28 or 29 to 1, down to, there's a group called COPLAC, Council of Public Liberal Arts Colleges. At the time, back in the mid-90s, there were 17 members. One from, its eligibility is one from every state. At that point, there were 17 states that had a COPLAC institution. And I remember Dr. DiPaolo basically benchmarking everything we did to the COPLAC mean.
Sure.
So, I mean, everything that she wanted our student-faculty ratio to mirror a COPLAC institution. So worked diligently at securing funding, and as I remember, our student body stepped up and approved, I believe at that time, it was an additional $200 a semester fee on their tuition specifically designated for hiring new faculty.
Okay.
And over the course of 2 or 3 years, I think we added over 100 new lines, not replacement lines for people who had left. These were brand new lines. So one was to decrease the faculty to student ratio, and broaden the caliber and the diversity of the faculty. That was one. Two was the physical facilities, and specifically the residence halls, because to be a true public liberal arts university, Dr. DiPaolo, and it was established, we wanted to be a residential campus, which meant in order for us to house the number of students that we thought would be a critical mass, and two, even more importantly, the third leg, which is the nature of the student, which I'll go back to in a second, but to attract and be able to recruit the kind of students that we wanted, the residence hall system that we had was dramatically inadequate. And we were actually the first university system school to go about creating a new funding strategy, which was the creation of a 501c3, won't go into all the details, but basically through the foundation to secure private, it's now called a public-private venture, to secure funds to begin the transformation of our residential communities. And first phase one, actually was completed 10 years ago. The buildings 1, 2, and 3 at the Village, which is our apartment area, and the clubhouse opened on January 2nd, 2003. And Foundation and Parkhurst, our two largest central campus residence halls, will celebrate their 10th anniversary on Valentine's Day, February 14th. February 14th, 2003, we transitioned and closed 5 residence halls and moved those men and women into these 2 new residence halls. Went from double-loaded corridors, many of them cinder block, the kind of things you and I, or certainly I did, and you were younger, so you got a little bit on the tail end of that, to suite-style facilities. The village is 4-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments, private bath for every 2 people, etc. So we transitioned and began that process, and that continued with a phase 2, which was the addition of buildings 4, 5, and 6 at the village, the West Campus Center building, and then Bell Hall was not part of the original funding process, and then we renovated Bell Hall. So we went from about 1,200 capacity to 2,300 in that period of time. So we now had premier facilities that could help support the educational process. We also built a classroom in each of those buildings, and to help support the in-class experience out of the class. The third part of that triangle were the students. And as I had mentioned, we had great students. When I came, 80% of the students commuted from within 50 miles of Milledgeville. Frankly, at that stage, we were a very open enrollment institution. If you had a paw print, you could get admitted. And then there's a conscious effort to increase the qualifications of the men and women from Georgia coming to Georgia College. That process actually began a couple of years before we got our liberal arts designation, but we are now, and you'll have other guests who'd be much more accurate on this, but our student body, our incoming freshman class, annually ranks in the top 3 in the university system. And we are the institution of choice for the vast majority of our incoming freshmen. And just like myself, many of our incoming freshmen will say, well, I'm coming here to get my core requirements, and then I'm going to transfer to a bigger institution, whatever. And I suspect if you have a number of our upperclassmen sitting here, they would share the similar story that I did, that, I did when I came here, I wasn't planning on staying, but I got engaged, be it through co-curricular experiences in the classroom. This is a neat place to be, so why would I want to transfer? Now, and over the years, I left housing, I believe it was 2007. And the level of support for housing, the staff have probably increased almost double. We had RAs, they're now community advisors. We staffed our hall directors. The majority were actually undergraduate or graduate students now. They are primarily full-time professionals. It's just been a tremendous ride. I used to say I could not understand why the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is the premier publication, now electronic as well as hard copy, hadn't done a story on Georgia College, because our experience on the transformations. They did do an article a couple of years ago. They didn't cover the whole, but they covered a portion of it. So yeah, it's been a tremendous experience. I truly wouldn't trade it. My son did his undergrad and his master's here. He is now a full-time housing professional working in Texas. My wife retired a year and a half ago from Georgia College, working in the business area, and now it's my turn to turn over the keys to a new individual and wish him or her great success and the institution ongoing success.
Well, we're going to come back on our last segment and talk a little bit more about you and maybe what's ahead, and kind of having an oral history project about our university with Dr. Paul Jahr today on GC Conversations. welcome back to GC Conversations. Again, I'm your host, Wendell Staten, with Dr. Paul Jahr, Associate Vice President for Student Affairs. Kind of having an oral history project. You're giving us some good insight of the way that things have transpired in this university. One of the things we talked about is that coffee cup. That's a constant companion of yours, and I'm glad you got it today on your next to last day. In fact, today we're having a little reception for you this afternoon. I'm sure we'll get some talk about having that coffee mug with you all the time. So I take you've been a coffee drinker for a long time.
Actually, I picked up coffee in college from my director of housing, actually, who was my mentor. He has since passed. But that's now the interesting thing is, as I tell folks, and it's true, I don't have a coffee pot at home.
Okay.
I will drink anywhere between probably 6 to 10 cups of coffee a day. Here at Georgia College, I don't drink coffee on the weekends. It's my legal drug of choice. And you are accurate. My coffee cup follows me wherever I go. A number of years ago, my staff gave me a coffee cup because I had a habit of losing or misplacing them. I still have it in my office. It's inscribed, "If found, please return to Dr. Paul K. Jahr."
You know, that's interesting because now with your not going to work every day, I wonder if you will transition to no coffee at all, or if you'll have it at home. That's an interesting conversation for the next time we have you on. How about that?
That'll be a pleasure, certainly. Yes.
So let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long you've been planning your retirement, but obviously you felt like it was the right time, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said Diana retired about a year and a half ago. What's next for Paul Jahr? Well, you're going to be busy. I can guarantee you that because you got too much energy.
Yeah, well, and that is accurate. As I tell folks, all my colleagues, I'm retiring tomorrow. I will be back part-time April, May, and June, and then I will be hanging it up formally.
Okay.
But as I tell folks and my colleagues all over the country, I am retiring from my daily Georgia College responsibilities. I am not retiring professionally. I'm very active in our International Housing Association, and I do some external reviews and things, so I will continue to remain active professionally.
Right. Okay.
I look forward to volunteering some of my time here on campus on things. My wife and I like to frequent the basketball games. Now we'll be able to go to baseball and softball as well. So I plan on staying busy. I recognize once you leave, you're out of the pipeline, so and I accept that. And in answer to your question, I actually made a decision about October.
Okay.
And let Dr. Harshbarger, my supervisor, know. I felt it was time, one, for my family, because one of the things about me, and yes, I am a workaholic, and yes, I am high energy, is the people that frankly paid the biggest price for all of my professional activities and involvements is my wife and my son now has been bitten by the bug of higher education and is assistant director of housing at Texas Tech. But my wife's been out a year and a half now, and I just felt it's time. I've enjoyed everything. The university continues to grow and evolve, and I don't necessarily mean grow larger. I mean, but become more sophisticated. And I will miss a lot. I hope to keep in touch. I will not bug people. I am not a decision maker. And I hope to a certain extent that some of my perspective and things can assist when people are looking for some information. I always preface everything I say with "this is Jahr's view," so please understand that. And as I tell folks, if you want my opinion, I will gladly share it and recognize it is just that, my opinion. You can accept it, you can put it in the circular file. My ego's not attached to it. And we're not leaving Milledgeville. I mean, we have actually in August our house will be paid for. So it'll be all ours. No more the bank and I. And we like the community. And,
well, good.
So it's looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I've always found it interesting about when is the right time, and I'm sure coming to that decision. I'm sure this is something you've been thinking about for some time, but. That's not an easy decision because you are a friend to all, certainly on this campus and in our community, and so that'll be part of a transition, but to where you're not coming in drinking your coffee every day and seeing people on campus and interacting with students, But again, with your energy and I don't see any issues with you staying busy. I know one thing: if you become a professional volunteer, I'm drafting you first round.
and I will be happy to accept that honor.
Paul, it's been great visiting with you today,
Thank
you for sharing some stories of your 25 years and viewpoints of this university, and thank you for your service to the university.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great ride.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Good. For Dr. Paul Jahr, I'm Wendell Staten. Thanks so much for joining us on GC Conversations.